The game is also shown in the left-hand corner, and there's a bit of action coming up here that I'm quite interested in. It is indeed a goal! So another flick of the button here, and I can show the action replay of that incident. But the point is I can make an action replay happen at any point in the game. Bang, there it is. Okay, well, how does this system work, and what would happen if we used it on Tomorrow's World?
Well, at the moment, Tomorrow's World is controlled by the director in the gallery. He decides what you see because he chooses which of all these camera shots are actually going to be sent to you. Now, what's different with the new system is that we could send some of these down to you and you could make your choice at home. For example, you could choose this. This is the director's selected shot. You can see it's changing. You could decide that you wanted a close-up like this, a close-up of an object, or a close-up of one of our presenters.
The point is that you choose, and for real techno buffs there's also an extra page of technical information.
Yes, even with location stories you could make your choice. For example, you could have 3 things running simultaneously, so you could choose between a report from Howard, Kate or Carmen. So there is quite a lot of interactivity with this. You can make your choices, but real interactivity would come when signals could be sent both ways along the cable, so that you could send, by signal, your views to the broadcasters and tell them what you'd like to actually put out.
And that's only a year or 2 away, and then interactive TV could let you take part in your favourite quiz show.
What happens next?
Hey, you're bleeding.
Am I?
Yeah, let me have a look.
And you could decide what happens next in the soap operas by voting. Or how about using your remote control to vote for something a bit more important? The latest phrase from America is the electronic town hall, an idea pioneered by presidential candidate Ross Perot. You have on-screen debates, and viewers can vote instantly on the policies they like. True democracy by TV, or does it turn important decision-making into just another game show?
Times Square, New York, and I've got an appointment to keep. With the most incredible sign in the square's history and its makers. It's big, it's bright, and it moves. An all-American dream, dreamt up by engineers from the space age. The whole sign is actually one massive, intricate, revolutionary, yes, gaudy, robot. And its designers learnt their robotic skills working for NASA. Where do I find them? All I've got is a phone number.
Hello, this is the Times Square robot sign. Status power.
That's the robot. I want the maker.
Hi, kid.
Yuri Toshinsky works for Honeybee Robotics. They made their name designing robots for the space shuttle, but NASA funding is unpredictable, so they've turned to other commercial clients, a very different challenge. NASA issue a host of technical requirements and a reliability figure, say 99.999647%. Coca-Cola gave them a join, $3.5 million, and said, make this work. What the company wanted to work was something an engineer would never design. The cap has to stop moving just as gravity wants to take over, and it weighs 2,000 pounds. But the revolving pyramids were the worst thing. Each one is the size and twice the weight of a New York taxi. It's a 5-car pile-up waiting to happen, 100 feet above a crowded square. The pyramids even break the first law of robotic design. They invade each other's space as they turn. They have to rotate with perfect synchronism. Otherwise, they'll crash. Honeybee threw every safety device they could at the problem. State-of-the-art computers constantly check each other as well as the position of each pyramid. Any errors are corrected to match the movement of the first pyramid. There are wind speed monitors, temperature sensors, limit switches, and at any sign of a problem, electrical and mechanical brakes cut in. And the sign calls up its owners to come and fix it.
Malfunction, please attend.
Yuri and his mates didn't have the time or money for years of NASA-style design and testing, so they had to rely on gut feeling. And the sign works well. At first, too well. The safety systems cut in and turned the sign off when nothing was wrong. But at least it hadn't been launched into space, and they could do some reprogramming. Now Yuri's ready for his next assignment, whether it's to Mars or Piccadilly Circus.
Well, science hasn't just changed entertainment techniques, it's become part of the entertainment itself. Right at the birth of cinema, Georges Méliès started a tradition of science fiction space travel on film. Well, it's certainly a flight of fancy, but who knows how much the science fiction inspired the pioneers who put Neil Armstrong on the moon 60 years later. Well, science fiction has gone the other way and let science inspire its creations.
And it's the creation of science fiction that's the best kept cinema secret of the year. Director Steven Spielberg's amazing special effects, which at the moment are kept strictly under wraps, will bring dinosaurs to life in his biggest budget movie yet, Jurassic Park. And that's a bit of an irony because the film is about that, bringing dinosaurs back to life.
The first discovery was made in the spring of 1990. From a mine in South America came a piece of amber containing the fossilized remains of a prehistoric mosquito, one of many that had fed upon the blood of dinosaurs. From the DNA in that blood, science was able to recreate those giants. And for the first time, man and dinosaur shared the earth. It happened at a place called Jurassic Park.
Before long, the dinosaurs are reborn and they go on the rampage. Now, the film might sound like complete science fiction, but it was actually inspired by the work of a real scientist, the American Dr. George Poyner. So could all of this really happen? Well, his research doesn't actually aim to bring back extinct life, but to discover why it died out in the first place. And several teams of scientists are looking at how animals evolved by examining DNA from extinct species. DNA is the blueprint of life. Its strands carry the genes, the building blocks that hold all the inherited information to make living things. 1984 brought the first discovery of extinct DNA, extracted from the skin of the quagga, which died out over 100 years ago. Then came 40,000-year-old mammoth DNA, and then 17-million-year-old DNA from a magnolia leaf. The ancient DNA race was on. But the amounts extracted were tiny, so scientists had to use these tiny amounts and turn to a technique that lets them make millions of copies of the DNA that they found. This gave them enough to run tests to compare gene fragments from the DNA of ancient species with DNA from their modern relatives. That should help them understand how the species evolved and became extinct. Meanwhile, the hunt for even older DNA went on with the help of that amber. Now, millions of years ago, this started life as resin oozing from a tree. When these insects in here landed, they got stuck and were embalmed almost instantly. You can actually see it a little better under the microscope. Dr. Poyner thought that as well as the insect, its fragile DNA might be preserved, and the race began to extract DNA preserved in amber. And Dr. Poyner's team, in fact, beat a rival group by only 3 weeks in recovering fragments of DNA from a 30-million-year-old insect. It's the oldest DNA ever discovered, but it's no dinosaur. So is that the end of the science and the beginning of fiction? Well, there are other specimens in amber collections, ancient blood-sucking insects which were around at the right time to have fed upon the blood of a dinosaur, so they might have dinosaur DNA preserved in their guts. But to build a whole set of DNA fragments into a complete dinosaur blueprint is an enormous undertaking. And even then, there's also the huge problem of engineering a cell that divides and grows the way a baby dinosaur would. That's not technically possible at the moment. And although Dr. Poyner says that it might be one day, all the scientists agree it'll be a long time, if ever, before we're able to take the wraps off a living dinosaur.
This is what it's about. Driving through the countryside with some rousing music on the car stereo. But for full effect, you really want that music to be digital sound, like on this compact disc. Digital radio, that would be the thing. But for now, if you relied on radio for your in-car entertainment, you might well end up disappointed. Not with the programmes, of course, but with the sound quality. Stereo FM might be a lot better than medium wave, but if you want high-quality stereo sound on the move, it's really not up to it.
Come on, then. You better tell us the worst.
FM was designed to be used at home after carefully setting up your aerial to point at the transmitter and avoiding hills and other obstacles. Do all that right, and you can get excellent reception. But it was certainly not designed to be received when you're driving along in a car.
I trust my editorial is providing you with some food for thought.
This transmitter here at Crystal Palace is 222 metres high, commanding enough to send out FM signals to a huge swathe of London and the southeast. Now, obviously, cars that are in direct line of sight of the transmitter can get good reception. But if there's a building or hill nearby, the car can pick up a signal that's been reflected back off them as well. And as the two signals get mixed up, you get interference. Those whistles, whooshes and crackles. Now, digital radio should get round some of these problems because the digital pulses can cope much better with being bounced around than the more delicate FM signal. But there is a price. Compact discs need about 1.5 million digital pulses for every second of sound. Use that much for radio and you'd seriously clog up the airwaves. But there are ways of sending less digital information without hearing any difference. For example, if a loud sound and a quiet sound happen at the same time, if you're not going to hear the quiet one, you only need send for the loud one. In fact, using techniques like that, you only need send 1/5 as much information and it should still sound the same. But what really makes digital radio viable is the way the signal's transmitted, and the equipment in here can pick it up. On the screen just now are the FM signals. Each one of these spikes is a different station. That one's Radio 4 and further up there's Radio 1. But this is a digital test transmission. It's quite different. Instead of there being just one signal for each station, the sound from lots of stations is spread across about 1,500 digital signals, all bundled together. And this is the clever bit. Even if up to half of those signals are badly distorted by hills or buildings, a digital receiver can still untangle the original pulses to make CD quality stereo sound. Well, using this, I can switch between the FM sound and the digital radio, so I think it's time to take it out on the road and hear what it actually sounds like. Now, this is FM. The hills around here in the Reigate area always cause a lot of problems, as you can hear.
You mustn't take it personally.
And this is the digital sound.
To speak the truth, however unpalatable.
You can almost smell Ambridge.
It's all right for you sitting in the car. I could have done with your support.
Well, let's listen to that again. There's the FM with all those whooshes and crackles.
In the parish magazine.
And that's the digital.
Well, perhaps you understand the point of my editorial.
I'll ring up the...
So, the digital future sounds good. But as usual, there's more to it than technology. The airwaves are already pretty full up. And although digital radio will take up less space in the long run, as it gets going, it's going to have to squeeze in the spectrum along with FM. The experts say we're going to become fully digital by 2020. It's a long wait.
Yes, you can. You've got to. It's our only chance.
Persistence of vision. It's what makes television possible. Basically, moving pictures don't really move at all, they just appear to. And you can see that on this early Victorian zoetrope. Now, it contains a series of static images in there, and we see the movement because each image persists in the retina just long enough to bridge the gap to the next, so the movement appears to be continuous, which makes anything possible.
You've seen it in the movies, you've seen it on telly. It's the latest hot special effects technique, morphing.
What I mean is, I like a nice big laugh. I said I like a nice big laugh. Yeah, they don't come much bigger than that, do they? He's funny, isn't he?
You can see a magical metamorphosis of one real 3D object into another entirely different one. And all produced inside the unreal world of the computer. Now, absolutely anything can be morphed, as you saw at the start of the programme. Cuddly, harmless lions can change into ferocious, roaring Tomorrow's World presenters. But what's really interesting about that morph is that it wasn't created on an expensive high-tech machine, but was done on a home computer using a new piece of off-the-shelf software. Now, on the screen I have got the two images, the lion over here and also Howard. Now, to create a smooth, believable transition between the two, the computer has to work out all the in-between stages and all in 3 dimensions. So, by outlining all of the features of the lion and all of the features of Howard, the computer can tell the image to morph one area into another, one feature into another. So this area of the lion will become Howard's forehead and hairline. Hang on a second, it doesn't want to work. There we go. Off we go. There you go. So that was the lion's mane, top half of his mane turning into Howard's hairline, and the bottom half into his jaw. And the computer just does all the rest for you. Get a nice smooth transition. It's a little bit freaky, actually. But it makes you wonder, if home computers can do amazing special effects like that, what are the professionals up to in their state-of-the-art machines? I went down to London's West End earlier to find out. Christian Hogue is one of the top computer graphics people in the world. He worked on the blockbuster movie Terminator 2. So, Christian, what's your latest project?
Well, we've been working on a commercial for the States based around Mrs. B, who's a maple syrup sort of product. She's been traditionally done up till now by stop frame work. And with stop frame animation, you can sort of like move people's heads around and do things like that with models. With technology as it is today, we've done away with Mrs. Butterworth as reality. We're creating her from scratch inside a computer. And the advantages of doing that is that the motion is much smoother when it's computer generated than when it is with a model.
Worth it. And don't forget my light syrup.
We create her on a computer in a virtual studio. We then build her up and put a skeleton inside her, and then we can animate the skeleton and just position it at different key frames. It's very similar to traditional animation in a way, but the look is totally real. We supply a digital edit suite with the elements that they need to combine Mrs. B with the background. So on the monitor here we have a wireframe version of Mrs. B, which we use to see if the motion's right. And then we have a beauty pass of Mrs. B as she moves, with highlights and bumps and shadows and everything. And then we have a matte pass to cut Mrs. B out from her background that I have, and it's combined then with the live action real background of the tabletop and stuff that you see in the final commercial.
It does take a little more time, see?
So is this the best there is in the world?
This is cutting edge, this is it. This is where we are a year on from Terminator 2. In fact, Mrs. B and a few of our other commercials have been entered into Imagina, which is on at the moment, and it's Europe's premier showcase for computer-generated imagery. And the competition's going to be really fierce, and you know, we're in there with a good chance.
The wide open spaces, the roar of the ocean. Nothing beats watching movies on the big screen. And for the past year, you've been able to buy tellies with the same wide screen. But the trouble is, the widescreen films on TV are transmitted for ordinary squarer sets, either by losing bits at the sides, when obviously you're not seeing what the film director intended, or you get the so-called letterbox with these black bands at the top and the bottom, but most viewers don't seem to like that as much. On one of the new widescreen sets, you can blow up the letterbox picture to fill the screen, but you're only using this smaller portion of the picture to pretty well fill the height of the new screen, so you do lose some clarity. A true widescreen TV system would give you full height at the same clarity as your normal picture. And that's what the newest widescreen transmission system does. It's called PAL+, and it's the first one that's compatible with the PAL system used in Britain. Now, here's how it works. The picture starts as a widescreen movie or studio picture, and here's one of the first true widescreen cameras. The picture's transmitted as a letterbox, but hidden in code in the black bands at the top and the bottom are extra details about the whole picture. And at the receiving end, that's used to improve the picture clarity when it's blown up onto the big screen, the wide screen. Now, because PAL+ pictures still work perfectly well on ordinary sets, albeit in a letterbox, it could give true widescreen a foot in the door. A Saturday night movie, say, or even Only Fools and Horses, here's a specially shot edition, could be broadcast in PAL+, giving those with widescreens a treat without totally upsetting the rest of us. TV set makers are keen, although UK broadcasters want to wait until there's more demand. But viewers might want to hang on for the true cinema in the parlour. High-definition television. Now, here's another familiar show. Again, it's been specially shot, and I can tell you it is a very impressive picture. It comes from using 1,250 lines. That's twice the number on your set. But high-def TV in the home is a way off, mainly because there's no agreed way of broadcasting the pictures. So, once again, the industry is waiting for digital technology. Digital TV should be easily adapted for everything, broadcasting and recording on high-definition cassettes. The other thing that high-def needs, though, is a set that you could actually fit in your home. What fat pictures need is a thin display. Now, this prototype is just 8 centimetres thick, and it uses one of the most promising techniques, a gas plasma screen. It's a bit like a flat fluorescent light tube sandwiched between 2 glass sheets. Inside, there are tiny sparks of ultraviolet light which hit the red, green or blue phosphor dots on the screen. Enough dots and you build up a picture, and eventually a true home cinema. As good as the real thing? Well, we'll have to wait and see, but don't hold your breath. Like digital radio, it is still a few years away.
Pop trivia time. Who really launched the rock and roll revolution? Was it A, Bill Haley, B, Elvis Presley, or C, Michael Faraday? The answer obviously is C, Rockin' Michael Faraday, the tuned-in physicist from the 19th century. Well, he did it indirectly. Designer Seth Lover developed the first commercial electric guitar pickup by taking advantage of Faraday's dynamo principle to turn the movements of metal strings in a magnetic field into electric signals that could be amplified enough to entertain thousands at a time. So came rock, so came roll, and so eventually came U2. The Zoo TV Tour voted the most successful live event at last night's Brit Awards. U2 have been at the top of the music industry for the last 10 years, and one of the reasons that they've kept up there is that they are continually innovating. The showstopper this year was an East German Trabant. Very difficult to recycle, but great to convert into one of the best light shows around. First of all, you boost up the headlamps. Very nice. And then you change the seats into hot seats with stroboscopes and a 4,000-watt lamp, all choreographed by computer. And then you string the whole lot up on winches and steer your rock band to chart success.
Give me 2 more chances, you won't be denied. Well, my heart is where it's always been. My head is somewhere in between. Give me 1 more chance, let me be a lover tonight.
Well, I've never had to perform quite like this before, but for once, the secret to this camera shot isn't a computer. It's just plain old mechanical engineering, man-powered. Now, apparently they needed the human touch to get the smooth movement, and the operator can move in time with the artiste.
Yeah, so it just goes to show that technology doesn't have to be high technology to produce tomorrow's entertainment.
Woo!
That's it for tonight. Say goodbye, Carmen.
Goodbye, Carmen.
Yeah, very good.